Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about love and feeling God's love, which is such a small topic. Some of us were taught that God is love, but that He would condemn us if we made a mistake or if we weren't good enough. Some of us were taught that God is love, but we felt really, really unloved when our prayers weren't answered or when something really didn't turn out the way we thought or hoped. Some of us were taught that God is love, but amidst that love, we felt a lot of pain. And so it's hard to make sense of what love is and how we feel God's love. Because if it were up to me, it would be really easy and everything would just turn out and I would feel loved all the time. So how do we do that? First of all, I think it's a choice. You can choose to believe that God loves you. And that makes it sound easy, and it's not. It is easy, but it's not. But you can choose to believe that everything that God does for you and everything that God doesn't do for you is based in love for you. And this week, I must have known, well, I did know I was giving this presentation. And this last week, I don't know what has happened to me, but I have been super afraid. Fear has just been running in my mind like crazy. Nothing's really different this week than it was last week. I mean, I've got some decisions to make for my family. Nothing's really big though, and I have been full of fear. But that's my soundtrack. I've been full of fear, and I just got back from Cedar City. I went down to help my sister while she had a baby. So I was with my nephews who were 5 and 2. And I thought, okay, I don't get to see them very much. Am I going to sit here and just be in my thoughts of fear all the time while I'm with them? I really don't want to do that. So I've really had to choose, and it's been hard. I've had to choose 200 times a day. Nope, I'm not going to listen to fear. Nope, I'm not going to do it again. That person just responded to me in a way that it made me feel like I did something wrong. Nope, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to choose to feel loved. And I'm going to choose to assume that that person has my best interest at heart. Will I get hurt that way? Possibly, because when we open our hearts to receive love, we also receive a lot of other things. But when we close our hearts in fear, we're not able to feel love. So that's something that's been really strongly reinforced to me this week, is when I've come to believe that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's fear. And when I am fearing something or not believing that God has my best interest in mind, I'm incapable of loving others. When you're afraid, you can't give, because fear is a very self-protective feeling, so you can't give. You also can't receive. So this week, especially, I feel like I've learned that to feel love, I really have to choose not to feel fear. And sometimes that's really not that hard, and sometimes it's really hard. But that's one of the biggest things that has spoken to me this week. Let's do the clip now. Brene Brown's one of my favorite people, and she writes a lot of books, and she's done a lot of research on shame and resilience, and she's a professor, and she talks about spirituality and how important that is in everyone's life, whether you're religious or not. And I found this clip this last week of her talking about Jesus, and it's just awesome. So we're going to watch it. Thanks, Brene. I was going to invite her in person, but she didn't pick up. I love her. And that talked a little bit more about giving love, but I want to focus on Jesus is love in the flesh. And so many times I've wondered how heartbroken Jesus and God are when we don't feel loved. Because that's their sole purpose. That's the feeling they want to convey to us more than anything, is I love you the way you are. You're going to change? Yes. I'm going to make you better? Yes. Is it going to be through some hard things? Yes. But I love you. And when I don't feel loved by Jesus and by God, I think that probably breaks their hearts. Have you ever tried to love someone and they can't feel it? They can't receive it? And you have it to give? I just think love is surrounding us, and we really have to make a choice every day to feel it, because there's an opposite power of fear. There's an enemy to God. There's someone that doesn't want us to open our hearts and to feel love, and they are using fear like crazy through the media and through the fast pace of life, and through it's so easy to feel fear. I almost think it's a natural human thing to self-protect, because it keeps us alive as a species, but we're way too good at it. It helps like when lions were chasing after us, but we feel it as powerfully now, and we act on it, and lions aren't chasing after us. And so all it does now is prevent us from feeling love and acting out of love. You'll find evidence of what you choose to believe. So I was on a hike recently, like 4 hours ago, and I drove up there. I was all ready for my hike, and I forgot my shoes. So I had to drive back home and get my shoes. And then while I was hiking / running, I don't know what I tripped on, because I looked back and there was nothing, but in like the space of a blink, I was on the ground with mud all over my face. I have like this scar, and my phone fell out of my pack, which I didn't realize until 3 miles later. So I came back to find my phone, and I could have interpreted all this as someone is out to get me. Forgot my shoes, couldn't find my phone, I had to go do this. I shouldn't have gone on a hike today. It's probably because God's mad at me for hiking on a Sunday. I mean, I could have gone way down that path. Here's the other thing. I found my phone. Some stranger found it and like turned it into a Verizon store. And a guy told me that. I don't know how he knew. Random things happened. I probably saw 30 butterflies. I felt the wind. I was away from people, and I just felt God's love. But you'll find evidence of what you choose to believe. So if you choose to believe you're loved, you will find specific ways of God showing just you that you're loved, really unique ways to you. If you choose to believe that you're not loved, you can find evidence of that too. And so I think a lot of it is just making the choice to believe that we're loved. The last thing, I just recently read a book, well, two things. I read a little article this morning, and it said, don't let the 5% of people that you mistrust define the other 95% of people that you trust. And a big part of love is trusting. Trusting that God has your best interest at heart. Trusting that your friend has your best interest at heart. And trusting enough that out of love you can assume they meant well. So that's one thought. And then the second thing that I want to end with is I read a book that Lois, I'm not Lois, but she's really cool. She reads a lot, and she's like we have a secret book club. We never talk about books, but I just borrowed them all from her. And I just read one called My Stroke of Insight, and it's about a neuroanalyst who studies brains, and I might ruin it for you, but she has a stroke, and she actually knows she's having it when it's happening, and it's an amazing. She somehow calls someone and gets to the ER, and then she begins the slow process of recovering some of the things that she lost during her stroke. But something that stuck out to me is she said as she was recovering from her stroke, she found herself more in her right brain, which is more of the present. It's more of the calming, peaceful brain. And our left brain is, I like to call it the Western brain, because we're a little bit rushed, we're scientific, we think this is our task list, and our right brain is kind of more of our feeling list. And she found herself a lot more in her right brain because her left brain is where the stroke happened. And so she started just really calming down and focusing on the present. And she learned that when something makes us angry or afraid or any feeling, our natural response is the first 30 seconds. That's our biological response. So if I see a snake, I'm scared for 30 seconds. And it makes me jump back or whack it with a stick, or I don't know what it does, but I'm scared for 30 seconds, and that's legit, and I can't really change that 30 seconds. But if I choose to feel afraid after 30 seconds, that's a choice. I'm actually engaging my brain to feel that. So apparently I've chosen to feel fear a lot this week because after the first 30 seconds, it really is a choice. And I'm good at it. I grew up learning to feel like if I worried about something, I was doing something about it and I had control. So, I'm trying to be loving to myself as I learn things about myself, but 30 seconds is the biological response, and anything after that is a choice. So I just want to end with a thought that I already brought up as I spoke today, and that is, I feel like one of the sole purposes of our existence is to learn to love, to give and receive love. And it can be a life of learning how to do that. We don't get better at it overnight. Things don't change overnight. But if we make the first choice to feel loved and then make that choice as many times as we need to throughout the day, I think we'll see signs that we're loved. And I definitely have seen that, and it's definitely a work in progress. Thank you.